acompañarnos a la masterclass del día de hoy. Queremos agradecer a Fomento Educacional AC, al CENAR y Coca-Cola por el apoyo para que sea posible las masterclass. Les recordamos que por asistir a la clase se obtienen el 40% de descuento en taquilla con el flyer que se les dio en el registro, y que a partir del próximo lunes ya está el sitio disponible para la siguiente clase. Démosle la bienvenida a George Grazone y Phil Grenadier Quartet. Gracias.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. This is Phil Grenadier on trumpet. Luther Gray on drums. Lockwood on bass. Your guys on the saxophone. I like your vibe. So what we do is, this is a combination of two groups back in Boston, and we try to drift in between playing free and playing a tune, just so that everyone's happy. Because I want everyone to be happy. Because if you're happy, I'm happy. And if you're not happy, I'm not happy. And I want you to be. Okay, so we're gonna play a tune, and then if you have any questions, we can talk about life. Thanks. It's really great to play for the Mexican audience. You guys have this vibe happening. Are they translating for you? I don't understand. No, it's great. It's like an automatic pilot. Right into it. Boom. Okay, any questions? You're the jury and we're on trial. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Why do you play the way you play? Don't blame me, blame my family. Any questions?
Interplay. What about interplay?
Say again?
About interplay, because I don't know, what I'm hearing and seeing is like a basketball game, a football game, so interplay. What's your pulse, your approach?
I could be really bad and tell you it's like, no, it'll be good. Interplay is like, you know, when you play with each other. If you play basketball, you try to play together. It's like team playing. You know, it's like if you have a good soccer team, why does the soccer team win? Because they play together. It's not one guy. You know, maybe sometime it could be like Tom Brady for the Patriots, New England Patriots, something like that. But interplay means people playing together. It's not just the drummer or the trumpet player or the bass or the saxophone. It's everyone working together. I think that's what makes this band click as far as the sound.
When you guys started, you mentioned that one of the things you try to do is drift in and out of a composition. And actually, my friend and I were discussing whether what we were going to see tonight is a free jazz show. And my question for you guys is, in all of jazz, to a certain extent, people drift in and out of the composition. That's what a solo is, right? You utilizing the composition in order to make something new and then go back to it. For you guys, what is the difference fundamentally between free jazz and straight ahead jazz or hard bop, and what is it that you guys do exactly?
For me, sometimes I've played a lot of free players who have rules, so then it's not so free. Because suddenly something comes in your mind like you want to do it, and they said I shouldn't do that. So then you're really not. So they're playing avant-garde, I suppose. But for me, I think what we do, we have many different backgrounds. We play straight ahead. We played rock and roll. We played Latin. We try to do, and then we let go of everything, and through osmosis, hopefully something comes out. So actually, a tune could be a tune within the form, or it could be stretched. So I think besides interplay, I think a lot of listening and trusting, and that's about it.
The concept of drifting is a little bit of George's, and we kind of blend. So after a while, once you get into it, it's kind of hard to tell if we're playing a tune or playing free. And the first tune we played was free, probably all know, and the second tune we played was a standard, I Hear a Rhapsody. And the first tune we played, it wasn't too crazy on the continuum for us. You know, it was pretty tonal, and we stretched, and we try what we do on free, we try to bring to a composition and to try to break it down. We're always aware of the form, but it may not be totally obvious to the listener. So it's kind of a little bit of what we love in ourselves to play, is to be a little bit oblique and a little bit hidden and not super obvious. And it kind of reflects. So if you hear us tonight, you might wonder if we're playing free, if we're playing tunes, or both. And that's a little bit of our style, but we've got more to offer.
No, we haven't really drifted yet because we played free, then we stopped, and then we went into the tune. But the drift is when, you start playing free, and then all of a sudden you happenings, and so you'll hear that more tonight. We're trying to save that for you. I mean, we can do it for you if you want, but you want to drift? All right, let's drift. Remember the group, the Drifters? Are you old enough? I played with them. That's why I had this idea of drifting, you know, because for me, you know, I don't know if these guys agree. I love playing tunes and playing, you know, get the sheet music and read the tunes, but for some reason I feel boxed in, you know, like. So this way it makes the song feel less boxed in. I don't know how you say that in Spanish. Are they translating that for you? Box? How do you say box, maestro? Got it. Anyway, so I feel like less boxed in because John and I, we have a group called The Fringe, and we've been together for like 44 years, and we play free, and we don't do any tunes. Once in a while we'll do a song, but most of the set is playing free. So, you know, you have a choice when you play as a musician, you know, to do what you want to do. You know, I just want to tell you, I hope you understand this. It's like, don't let anyone tell you, hey, you need to play tunes, you need to play standards, you need to do this, you need to do that. You understand that? Because when I went to Berkeley, I went against everything the teachers told me to do. They said do this, I did the opposite. Not because I wanted to be a rebel, I was never a rebel, but it was like, okay, that's great, but then when I listen to them play, they sound the same. So the way I look at what I play is called like bebop upside down. Does that make sense? So when I'm playing, if you stand on your head like this, it sounds like I'm playing bebop. Then if you come back up straight, then you hear me. Does that make sense? You're really crazy. Any other question? And then maybe we'll try to drift. Question?
I noticed you guys don't have a piano player, it's actually one of the first times in this series that we've had a group without a piano player. Is that a conscious decision? Or do you guys just not like piano players? Or
I think Luther would like to comment more on that.
We don't have a piano player because George hates piano players. No, I'm kidding. The reason we don't have a piano player just has to do with the way that we like things to sound. It opens things up a lot. And the harmony, you hear the harmony between, you know, you think of the bottom note of the bass and then the top notes with the horns. And that kind of creates a harmony. It doesn't fill everything out explicitly like a piano would. And so it leaves a lot of insinuation, or you can, what's the word I'm looking for? You can try to give the impression of harmony without it being explicit. So it makes it a little bit more abstract and more open to interpretation. And the same thing, like I can play drums, and I can try to, and I can't play the notes of the harmony, but I can insinuate the form and the cadence points and try to make you hear the melody or the harmony in the way that I'm playing. And it's not specific. And piano is very specific, obviously. And we've played with piano before, it's great, we love it, but this leaves things more open. I mean, as a drummer, it's nice too, because I get a lot that I get to do, you know. And I think of like, Max Roach had a bunch of bands in the 60s where he didn't use piano players, and it was almost like his left hand was a piano player sometimes. But it's just like another thing, pretty much, if that.
yeah, no, it's great for me. All right, so
Oh, and one other thing, a big part of it is, you know, some people, some horn players and bass players of the whole band sometimes kind of lean on a piano player or a guitar player, somebody to play the harmony for them and make it clear so that they don't necessarily have to have it themselves internalized. And these guys obviously don't have that problem. And not only that, they can expand the harmony in so many different ways that it's really nice to hear them have that freedom to do that, you know. And again, like I said, we've played with piano players and a good piano player, they can do all those different things with the piano player because he or she can hear those things. You know. But,
Okay, so I think the two best piano players I play with in my life right now are Jerry Bergonzi and Dave Liebman. And they're both saxophone players. Why? Because they understand the saxophone and they know where to put these harmonies and how they voice the chords, you know. I mean, I love the piano. You know, it's not that I don't like it. And the other thing is that, you know, this group plays at such a high level that it's almost not necessary. It's not, you know, oh, I don't like the piano. It's just, it's really not needed. Plus, we make more money as a quartet. Okay, so we're going to do a little drift, okay? And then we'll drift into a tune. So, any questions? We're getting close to in la mente.
Hi, good afternoon. I'd like you to give us some thoughts about using texture and timbre in improvisation, as opposed to like articulation and notes. I noticed you played a lot with sounds themselves, especially with the horns and the drums. So what are your thoughts about?
Well, music is sound, right? So it can be anything. And so we're kind of using everything at our disposal. And one of the things I love about playing music is I love to blend. And I really get a lot of pleasure and joy from blending with George, you know, and so he has these saxophone techniques that inspire me to try to, not replicate, but try to find a place to blend in with what he's doing, and I get a lot of joy from that. And sounds too, like you play something, sound is different than a line, right? Because you play sound, and sometimes you stop and there's space afterward. And I'm a big lover of space as well. So when space happens, other things appear. And if we stood up here and played sounds for you guys, you might start to leave. So we kind of use it in a manner that we like, and we hope you like. But we're trying to use all the things at our disposal. There's a long history of jazz, and we love, you know, from everybody, Lester Young, Charlie Parker, all the way to Albert Ayler, and you know, the whole history of jazz, and to people obviously today. So we're trying to use all those things at our disposal. But yeah, the blending of the sounds, and the cymbal blends into our tones and things like that, and that it's an extra musical technique, but you're picking up on something that we definitely use in conjunction with other musical things. Más preguntas, por favor.
Hi. I know that you have a high sense of musicality, and I'd like to know what do you counsel to me to develop that musicality that you have? I want a counsel about how to develop musicality like you have, because I think it's a very important thing that you show us in this lesson.
About how to develop musicality, you mean? Or listen. Just listen. You know, from the last question, then I'll come to this question. The big thing I'm working on right now is space. Space. You know what space, how do you say space? Come on, Dr. Spock. Space means no playing. I know it doesn't sound like it when I play, but I'm really working on space. That to me is musicality. Because it's not, you know, all these things we play, this non-diatonic, non-harmonic, blah, blah, blah. It's the space to me that gives the music musicality. You understand that? You know, I know it's kind of menial, but you listen to people play and they don't use space. You know, that's musicality to me. It's not about all the content you use. It's like being a kung fu master and never having to use it. You know, that's the real zen of the kung fu master. Because if you look at this guy, if you look at this kung fu master, you just know, don't mess with him. You know? That's the real art of the kung fu man. It's not someone that gets up there and goes, wah, 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 wah. The person you have to really be careful for is a guy like that. You dig? So that's what I'm working on right now is space. I know it's, you know, sometimes I tell the students, if you understand this, it's like American slang. Space is not just the distance between your ears. You understand that? So, anyway, anyone else? What do you think? Space? Just trying to keep the ball over here.
Yeah, I would agree with George about space. One other way of thinking of space too is, I noticed this as a drummer, and like Phil was saying with blending, is, you know, you look at the musical staff, the treble and the bass clef and everything in between, and where people's stuff is laying. And it's one thing, like my snare drum might lay in a certain frequency in the middle. And so I gotta be careful, if somebody else is playing a lot in that area, I gotta leave them space for that. And maybe I can play it up higher, the cymbal will float up above, and we'll give them space. Does that make sense? That's a different way of space other than just rest. And that goes into blending and musicality. Just, I think, like George said, listen, right? You listen when you're playing. You listen to other people play in live performances. You listen to records. And you form opinions about all those things. You can listen to it, you know, and just have a great time. You can also listen to it critically and think, wow, I wasn't crazy about that. And maybe try to figure out why you didn't like it. Or I really like that. So what is that they did? And it doesn't necessarily even have to be what specific notes did they play. It's like, what happened right there? You know, like, he just did something, and he did something, and he did something. And maybe that's why what he played sounded so cool, is because of what those guys did, and he's working with it, right? So that's the kind of stuff, I mean, I think in terms of musicality, you just listen sometimes analytically to stuff, but the main thing is just figuring out what you like. When you go, like George said, no, you don't have to do anything, right? That anybody tells you, you just go and make music that sounds good, right? That's what I did when my friends, when I was 12 years old, played in the garage. I had no idea what I was doing, but you just try to make it sound good, right? And then that's what I do when I play with them. I just try to make it sound good, you know. So it's super simple, but it's one of those things that everybody forgets because you're worried about what notes you can play on your altered dominant chord, or how you can suspend the rhythm in this kind of way, or this articulation, or all these different things, or how am I going to play the form on this super complicated tune, and you forget, like, you just need to make it sound good, you know. So.
Yeah, I think the important thing about space is that it kind of creates tension. And even in a walking bass line, which is just 4 notes, I didn't realize this a few years ago, but it's not the notes you play, it's the space between them. So people talk about someone having a wide beat or whatever. And I don't know even how you can practice because it's a felt thing. It's not something you can really sit down. And even an a cappella melody or something, how you space each phrase is crucial. But how you practice that, I don't know. It's just you've got to feel it. I suppose it's which is by a lot of listening and playing with people. And often it's what you don't play that's the important stuff.
Did you get all that? The biggest thing I try to tell the students in Boston and Berkeley is try not to think so much. You know, don't think so much when you're playing, because you can feel when musicians are thinking. Musicians are not supposed to think. They're supposed to feel, right? They're supposed to feel. I feel it. You know, that's the way I think. It's like, there's not too many people who say, like, wow, I feel this guy when he plays, or I feel this girl when she's playing, and I can feel that. It's not like, whoa, let's see, what is she playing on the G7? That seems to be the chord today. It's like, I want to feel the person when they're playing, not about the history of how many books they've studied out of. I was never a book person. I never wanted to teach. I didn't want to do that, but it was like the mafia. They dragged me into it, and then once you get in, you can't get out. You know, America. Any other questions?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks you guys for being here. It's really great to have you here. Thanks. Many of the people that are in here, sit in this stage, in this auditorium, are young musicians, young students, young jazz students. When you start to study jazz, you realize, I think two things. One, that there's no step back once you are in jazz. You go in for the rest of life. And the second is that there are so many things to cover and to study. And when you're young, you try to cover all those things, and sometimes the time is not enough, or the head is not enough.
So you're stressing out already. Tranquilo. Relax.
My question really is, in your experience, not only as musicians, but also as teachers, what we should be looking for, especially the first years of studying jazz?
As the student, you mean?
Studying.
Don't look for anything. What do you need to look for? Right? Just go to school and you say, hey, how you doing? All right, hey, how you doing? Oh, what's going on? Oh, I like that scale. How you doing? Like when I went to Berkeley in 1968, no, seriously, my class was Joe Lovano, Kenny Warner, Billy Drews, Schofield. This guy came in a little bit later, and I was like this little 18-year-old Italian guy from Boston. And when I got to school, I heard the saxophone played like I never heard it before. It made me cry, you know? But there was something there that said, just keep hanging with these guys. And they liked me. So it wasn't like, oh, what's the criteria? You know, what's the purpose of doing it? The purpose was just doing it. You know, and the difference between the students now and back when we went to school is too much, you know, what do I do? You know, what do I need to do? Oh, look, I'm looking at this t-shirt, it says, just do it. Right? It's like the basketball players, just do it. I mean, I lived by that. All my life I lived by that. Just went and we played, and we didn't think about, oh, what does it sound like? We didn't think about, well, I hope he likes the way I play, because if he doesn't, I don't care. But it's not like that now. The students are too concerned about, oh, I hope she likes the way I play, and you know, and it's just too much mentality about how it goes. You can really live by the fact of whatever you're doing it the best. Because if you try to live up to something that's not there, you're never going to get there. You understand that? I mean, I hope that. Anyone want to fill in on that?
See, that was beautiful, George. Super philosophical. A simple answer, I'm going to steal from another one of my mentors, Jerry Bergonzi, and he has a very simple thing. He says, 3 things are to help you as a student grow. He says it's like what you practice, what you listen to, and who you play with. And that is kind of a recipe for growth. And we know the cliche, you want to be around people that are better than you, you know? And when we listen to people that are better than us, we don't want to listen to people that are worse than us. And that's really simple. But what you practice, you have to figure out. And George touched on to that, which is esoteric, but he's totally right. So what you practice is kind of what you're passionate about. And it doesn't have to be technical, it can be anything. But what you listen to and who you play with.
So we have 5 minutes left. Any other questions or like that?
This is for the drummer. I wonder if you could talk about expressing feelings in the drums. And perhaps...
What did you say, expressing what?
Feelings.
And then you had some more?
Perhaps feelings you wouldn't expect the drum to express, such as love, maybe?
Love, expressing love on the drums. I think I understand what you mean. So first of all, expressing on the drums, if you, it takes a long time to learn to play an instrument and to play it and kind of develop your own personality or your own form of expression on it. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's like this school thing. I mean, you have a lot of time, it's going to take you forever. And so you just keep doing it. But what I would say, at least the way that I think about it, you know, the first thing that you can use to express yourself is your voice, right? And then the next thing is you can start hitting stuff, right? And so I think a lot of it has to do with vocalizing what you play and singing it, because I can sing something better than I can actually play it, right? I mean, if it's slow, if it's fast, I can't make my mouth move that fast. But I can do things more accurately with my voice, which is going to express myself, right? But a lot of it, I think, just has to do with feeling what you do. One of the big things I remember from when I was in school was everybody studied jazz and played jazz, and then they went home and listened to something else. And I always thought there was like a disconnect there, because why are you playing something that you don't like? Or why aren't you listening to it if you like it playing so much? So I think a lot of it just has to do with feeling what you know, like that exciting feeling that you get. As far as how you express yourself, I mean, I think one thing that you could view as like maybe an exercise is play by yourself and try to make something sound, you know, try to sound like some waves. Or look out the window and see the tree leaves move, right? And you play and you try to make that. You try to take in the feeling of sitting there and looking at the trees, and you try to make that feeling on the drums. And I think it's a personal thing, and the more and more you do it, the more you start feeling these different things. And as far as like love, I remember one of the things that this piano player I used to work with used to say. He said that your job is just to love everybody on the bandstand. And that means you're working with them. You not like that. But so you're working with them. You think about like Billy Higgins' ride cymbal beat. I mean, that sounds like love, you know. And then, you know, I've heard Tony Williams play some solos that were almost romantic, the melodies that he played, when he used the really big drum set with all the different toms. And he would play these melodies that would roll around, and they were very legato. I think that's part of what you're thinking too, because people think of drums as aggressive and loud, and rhythms as that strong articulation doesn't sound very romantic, right? But if you go for a more legato sound, think of things that are beautiful, right? It's kind of a hard question to answer because it's very abstract. I'm happy to talk about it more too, because it's also not a short thing to answer. Does that give you some idea?
Thank you.
Yeah?
Can you feel the love? Now, you know, when you come, then we're going to stop and we'll see you tonight. But when you come on the road, you know, you have all the different personalities and, you know, different situations. We joke a lot, but that's, you know, that's part of being a musician. You know, you don't want to be like, oh, I play jazz. Oh, I am the jazz man. And you sound that way. But, you know, we have many different personalities up here, which is good. So anyway, we'll see you tonight. We hope you enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it. And we're going to terrorize you and torture you, and you will love the way we play. Thank you. All right. Yeah, gracias.
Gracias por acompañarnos, los esperamos a las 8:30 en el concierto. Es importante que para la siguiente clase, que es el 8 de julio, se registren por favor en internet para la clase. Gracias.